I think the best way to start combating the drug abuse is you have to start educating at a young age too. A lot of people think, oh, we'll have some high school classes and start teaching these kids about drug abuse. You actually have to start at 3rd grade. And if you start at 3rd grade level and then you continue on a yearly basis, drug awareness, what it can do to you, actually show the kids the actual drugs, photographs of how it looks. That way, because a lot of times they hear about the drugs, they don't know how they look, they just hear about it. And I'm telling you, if you show these kids a needle that you have to use in order for to take heroin, which heroin could actually be, you could snort heroin nowadays, but if you show these kids that, hey, you're actually using this needle to put in your skin, and if you do that at a young age, I think you'll nip it in the bud with some of these kids, and they'll get to the point where maybe this is something I don't like, because most kids that age don't like needles. So they'll correlate that with the needles, and that should help maybe curb that type of addiction with them. But I really think that it falls to the teachers to really try to detect this. They should be taking classes so they can learn how to detect drug abuse. It all starts, I think, in the schools. I think that's the best way to really try getting these kids not to fall into any kind of abuse problems. Painkillers, prescription medicine. You're starting to see more and more in the news. I think it was on some World News Tonight or something like that, where they were talking about the prescription medicine abuse that you see out there. It's so easy for kids to get their hands on painkillers, Vicodin, Oxycontin. Those are sort of drugs right now that a lot of these kids are taking, and it's so easy to get from their parents' medicine cabinet. It's so common to see these kids out there in the street now with prescription bottles in their pockets. It's not even prescribed to them, different name on there. And it's just, there's like a market for prescription medicine right now. It's worse than what people think. It's just as bad as heroin right now, and a crystal methamphetamine problem, but now it's more prescription medicine. The most severe cases I've seen is as young as 12 years old, hooked on heroin. Nobody believes it, but you can ride around the squad car with me and I can show you. You'll see kids with track marks from the heroin use, and you'd be surprised. Their teeth are rotting. Some kids that are into crystal methamphetamine, awkward looking. And then you also see a lot of, the facial features, sunken face and stuff. And when you see these kids, as teenagers, some of them are not even teenagers, and you see this. I mean, not heroin addicts, and they really don't get bad, but once they do, you can see it. I mean, they just have a lot of track marks. You catch them often doing burglaries and robberies because they're trying to get money for their drug. And some of them have like an $80 habit a day. Some of them have a $100 habit a day, where they gotta just keep on medicating themselves with this heroin so they don't get sick. If you show them what it actually does medically, I've always thought that if you brought in a medical doctor into a classroom, and again, parents are invited, and you would let them explain to the kids at a very early age what it can do to you. People don't even know that GHB is pretty much like a date rape drug. When you take those kind of drugs, your brain will never recover from those kind of drugs. What it does is actually deteriorates your brain. And people don't understand that it can actually happen at the first use. It doesn't have to happen like with some drugs where you just use them over and over, and little by little your body starts breaking down. With drugs like this, your brain cells you can actually have an MRI done of a person with a healthy brain that doesn't take any kind of drugs, and you take certain drugs like GHB, ecstasy, and you can actually see, after they take those drugs, you can look at an MRI, you'd be freaked out if you saw what it can do to the brain and how fast it does it, where it can deteriorate the brain cells. I think if you show kids this, I think if you let them see how, especially if a medical doctor explains it to them, I think it will maybe make them think twice about it. It's not being done right now. Not in the inner cities, not in suburbs. One of the biggest problems that you have in heroin is in the suburbs. It's not really. A lot of people think, oh, it's in the city. Well, unfortunately, they grab their drugs from inner city and they purchase their drugs, and then they go out and do their drugs out back in the suburbs by their house.